This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Boy, did I need to record this podcast. The world has gone to shit. Lots of weird-ass shit's going on. Everybody's lawyering up. Everybody's playing, trying to figure out how to deny facts. It's a great time to talk about sports in Detroit. Man, what a fucking terrible week for me in regards to football, but balanced it out by hanging out at Michigan State. Always enjoy going up to East Lansing. I survived. It was crazy. The entire experience was crazy. When you have a situation in which a 49-0 beatdown is not even the story coming out of the weekend for Michigan State, you know shit hit the fan, so we're going to talk all about it. Michigan Wolverines got chaos going on all around them. People are getting into their camps. They're hunkering down and saying, hey, we're pro-Michigan and we're going to support anything that goes on. But Adam told you guys, look, man, this is only going to get worse for you if you let Jim Harbaugh continue to act this way. But we'll talk about it. Is he a hero or is he a chump? We'll talk about it. Got to talk about the Lions getting their ass beat. Man, that was crazy too. And we'll talk some positive notes to end the podcast with the Red Wings' unbelievably great start. The Superstar Edition is actually playing like a superstar. It's been great to watch, to actually sit down and be entertained by a sports team here in Detroit. And we'll briefly touch on the Pistons opening their season. It's going to be interesting to see how much we actually do get to talk about the Pistons, because it's going to be a show-me year with a new head coach and a very, very young team that's got to figure out how to play defense. Because what a crazy-ass week it was. Where do you want to start? You want to start with college sports, or you want to talk about the Lions getting their ass beat?
I think we're going to end up spending quite a bit of time talking Lions because there's a lot to kind of take out of that game, I think. Let's start with Michigan and Michigan State, and we can kind of start wherever you'd like to start. We can start with Michigan State. We can start with Michigan. Like you brought up, Michigan's got a whole bunch of stuff swirling around. We've got Tapegate basically going on with Michigan, but there was a football game involved. Michigan State's putting pictures of Hitler up at the stadium. But there was a football game involved. So, we've got things to discuss here. So wherever you want to go, let's go in that direction to kick this bad boy off, because there's a lot that we've got to get to.
Okay. The game obviously went the way in which we thought. It was crazy. I went there. I tailgated, ate, drank, had a good time. It was great. We had tents, so the rain didn't bother me. Got to tailgate right behind the Kellogg Center, which was literally 4 minutes away from the stadium, had a good time. Mm-hmm. The game you hoped would be competitive. The only goal that the Spartans had was to try and keep it within 24. They couldn't do it. They didn't have an answer. And eventually the shit that was their eventual weakness, a poor offense and a defense that couldn't stop anybody. That's what it was. I mean, you had opportunities early in the game to make some plays and you just didn't execute. You didn't have enough in any capacity to stop Michigan. It went the way it was. It was non-competitive. Stayed a quarter. That's all I stayed in the press box. I was like, oh, this is good. 8 o'clock, busted out, got home by 9, and it was a wrap. But it was disappointing because it was non-competitive. But in the end, that's how it was going to go. Michigan was going to run it up, score at will. But I was just disappointed with really the lack of fight from the Spartans. It was just disappointing that the game did not feature a little bit more competitiveness. I thought the Spartans would hit a little bit harder, but the size disparity was there. The talent disparity is very huge. And when in a game of football, the better team that has the better quarterback is usually going to win 99% of the time. And J.J. McCarthy is just unbelievable with the passion and energy that he showed. And Loveland just took over the game. I was greatly impressed. Got to scout him and to see what he can do. McCarthy's going to, if he gets in the right system, will translate well to the NFL. Loveland easily will translate well.
He's going to be a stud.
Yeah, he's going to be a stud. So a lot of good things to see, at least for a quarter, but competitively, it was disappointing.
Yeah, look, I think this game went the way we thought it was going to go, right? I mean, I was saying that I thought they could hang 63 on Michigan State. I thought Michigan State might be able to score. That wasn't the case in this game. I think the big thing that I took out of this game, and it's been kind of a building frustration for me since the season's kind of got underway, it's Donovan Edwards. I have no idea where Donovan Edwards is. Like, I don't know where his headspace is. I don't know what he's doing on the field. In this game specifically, to me, he was highlighted because of his ineptitude. You had the play at the end of the half where he was unsure what the hell was going on, didn't get set, and ended up costing the team 7 points. There are points in the game where his limited touches that he gets, he does not make the most of. He was there was a play where I think it looked like it was like a sweep to the left, and instead of him knifing upfield, there was a gap and there was a hole. Instead of him knifing upfield and picking up the yards that were given to him, he tried to get to the outside, and instead he ends up losing 2 yards. This is what he's done all season long. He has been unable to score when they've been in the red zone. He's been mostly a non-factor all over the place. This was a guy who helped you win the Ohio State game. This was a guy who this year talked a whole lot about revolutionizing the position of running back. This guy has been a non-factor all season, and I don't know if he's in his own headspace. I don't know if he's just not ready to turn it on until the lights get a little bit brighter. But whatever it is, it has thoroughly frustrated me to this point in the season. And after watching his display on the field on Saturday, I'm done with him. I'm done. Like, I don't need to see you for the rest of the year. Unless there's a critical injury to Blake Corum, I don't need to see you. I don't want to see you. If I was Jim Harbaugh, I would be incredibly frustrated by his production and basically the what I'm taking as the mental aspect of his game, because he seems checked out through most of these games. And to me, it's really starting to piss me off. But back to what you said, J.J. McCarthy looked good. Loveland looks like he's going to be the real deal at the next level. He looks like he is going to be a guy who is going to translate to NFL fields and is going to make an impact. So that's exciting. Look, again, there's not a whole lot for us to break down with this game. I think the bigger story surrounding this game was Tapegate. That's what I'm going to call it. You have an assistant coach going, and as the reports are kind of coming out, we didn't talk about this at all last week because everything was just kind of breaking, and things are still coming out about it. So I'm not really sure which direction we take it in. But look, if I was to come to you and I was to say, hey, John, there's going to be another scandal surrounding Michigan, and Jim Harbaugh is going to be at the center of it, and it's going to be one of his assistants, and it's going to involve taping other teams' signs from across the field while you're in the stadium, and you're gonna have an assistant head coach, or you're gonna have an assistant coach go to 30 different games, and 11 of them are going to basically cross-correlate to a team that Michigan's playing in the near future. And this assistant coach was going to send these off to different people, 3 different people, and they were going to be in the stands. There's video surveillance of them videotaping this stuff. If I was to tell you all that, you would look at me and be like, yeah, sounds about right. Sounds about right. I mean, like I'm not surprised that this is what is going on. What I am surprised about is how poorly things were executed. If you're going to go to these lengths to cheat, the lack of, I guess, cover up or the lack of just trying to clean up your own footsteps is remarkable to me. It is surprising for the reports that this guy is a Navy SEAL code breaker, and this guy really took no effort to try to disguise what he was doing is nuts to me. And look, I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know what's going to happen. The NCAA rules are written in such a way that, 1, they aren't very clear, and 2, they leave a lot of loopholes. So can Michigan feign ignorance? They might be able to. And can Jim Harbaugh walk away from this one again scot-free? He might be able to. And will all this fall on this one assistant coach? I mean, yeah, I think it's possible. He might be the scapegoat in all of this. Look, I don't know what to tell you. These things don't surprise me anymore when it comes to Jim Harbaugh. And with Michigan fans, to me, it's a little bit frustrating because they sit on their pulpits and they're always high and mighty about stuff. But your head coach, in an effort to win a national championship, in an effort to compete with the likes of Ohio State, the likes of Alabama, the likes of Georgia, the likes of any other SEC team, has gone to these lengths where he is now playing in the same mud pit as those guys. So you can't sit up here and you can't act all high and mighty. You can't act like everything is beneath you, because it's not. You're just as crooked as everybody else. You're just as dirty as everybody else. Your underwear stink just like everybody else's do.
Yeah.
So don't go around acting like you're untouchable and like you do everything the right way, because you don't.
Yeah, it's crazy to see the way in which people are looking at every monicum of details that's coming out. Look, something happened. And the key is going to be, did the rule get violated in the letter of the law? Did Connor go out to these stadiums? It looks like he put the stuff in his name, which was stupid. I think that's one of the things you could have easily did away with and just put it in a different name. And secondly, who was sitting in those seats when the infractions took place? Because if you have somebody else that's really not tied to the university, that kind of puts you in a position where you can kind of say that somebody else was gathering the information. But this video from OSU and Michigan, it kind of, I don't think is a flaming gun, but it just kind of lends to, this is how it's being applied. This is what sign stealing looks like in a game where it's the best, where Connor's standing there, Ohio State's number 7, CJ Stroud, makes a check, and all of a sudden Stallions is sitting there looking, and then all the Wolverine players put their arms up in unison, in tandem, telling what's going on. So, look, I'll say this. Jim Harbaugh let his desire to win, his competitive fire, losing out on salary, hearing all the noise, having the Michigan program be besmirched because they weren't winning, he took it and he said, okay, what do I got to do? And he looked and he looked and he left no stone unturned to try and get an edge. To what degree this is bad? I mean, to me, it's low. But because everybody else could figure out a way to try and do it, to try and figure out what opponents are trying to do, in the end, Michigan has talent, and they did a good job in my opinion. That it doesn't, to me, in the end, if Michigan had won the national title the last 2 years, okay. But they got their ass beat by TCU. They got embarrassed, and they have not reached the heights of success yet in 2023. You still got to play Penn State. You still got to play Ohio State with all the noise surrounding everything. So to me, if they end up being in violation, it should just be an infraction, whatever it is. I don't think you need to honestly lose games or recruiting. You just lose, time with the players, less practice time, slap on the wrist. But I'm glad it got exposed, at least to the degree in which Michigan, because here's the thing, cuz, if this is what they're starting to do, once you get a taste of it, what would have happened? The question is, what would have happened this year if you go on, you win the national title, and they don't catch you? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to skirt the rules even further? Because once you get a taste of success doing it, you only try to push further. This Connor Stallions character is fucking hilarious, dude. This dude's spending 4 tickets on both sides of the field using his own name. I love it. It's like high-tech, military grade kind of stealing shit. It's pretty sweet in regards to the level in which you're going to go hire somebody to go and do this, and then to see the both sides. I just think it's funny because really in the end, Ohio State fans, Michigan State fans, myself, we're just going to make jokes and literally, I'll tell you now, if Michigan wins the national title, I'm going to invalidate it. It's an asterisk. There's a cloud hanging over Michigan. That's all that's going to be said. Let's just see if Michigan can close the deal with all the noise. I don't think they will, but I just think that Jim Harbaugh was willing to push that boundary. And it's crazy that he was willing to do it at that university and being able to get away with it. I think that in the end, he knows this is the year to do it. I think he timed it. He's like, look, 7-8 years at a program. I don't think it's going to go much further. The university cut my pay. I can show that I can do what I got to do, and then I bounce out. I don't think he's going to end up with an NFL job, but it could happen. But I'm wondering, are you okay with it? Are you okay that he did this, irregardless of legal and all that kind of stuff? Are you okay with sign stealing in regards to the level of violation that it really is?
So I don't necessarily mind the sign stealing, right? I'm okay with that because, again, I think everybody's looking for an edge, and you're going to do what you got to do. I think to the degree that they went to do the sign stealing, like where you're buying tickets, and like you said, you're buying basically 4 tickets, 2 on each side of the 50-yard line, and you're videotaping stuff. At that point, to me, it just becomes egregious, right? Like, I don't mind if you're doing it within the rules, right? There's this bit of gray area in sports where everybody's kind of looking for an advantage. Everybody's looking for a bit of a leg up. At this point, what was going on, or what is alleged to have been going on, to me is just over the top. Like, you can't do that. And if you are going to do it, you can't be as brazen to put the stuff in your own name, to basically be out in front with your cell phone or with another video camera videotaping what is going on. Like, you can't do those things. You know, again, I don't necessarily have a problem with I guess the spirit of what was going on. Like, sign stealing is fine to me, but when you're showing up and you're videotaping stuff and you're buying tickets to opposing teams to do this, that's when I have a problem with it. I don't have a problem if you bought tickets to an opposing teams to go and actually watch what was going on and try to pick up some stuff, and you're taking notes while the game is going on. I'm totally okay with that. That doesn't bother me. It's when you start involving the recording of it and you're just so blatant and flagrant about it, that's when I have the issue with it. Yeah, and look, to me, it's going to boil down to, what does the NCAA want to do? And if you ask me at this moment in time, the NCAA has a hard-on for Jim Harbaugh. And this goes back to the stuff that took place this offseason. If Jim Harbaugh would have just played nice with the NCAA, I don't know if there's much of a big deal that's made about this. There might be some type of investigation. Like you said, might be a slap on the wrist. I think at this moment in time, Jim Harbaugh has pissed off so many people at the NCAA that they're coming after him, and they are looking to pin whatever they can pin on him, and they are looking to penalize him and this program by any means necessary, because he's done things in the past that he's kind of skirted around the rules, and it seems to be a continuous episode of line stepping, right? Like, the NCAA draws the line in the sand. They say, do not cross this line. And Jim Harbaugh's like, what line? As he takes another step over it. And then they draw another line. They say, don't cross this line. If you cross this line, you're going to be in trouble. And he's like, what line? As his heel basically crosses the line. So I think this is a way for the NCAA to now send a message to Jim Harbaugh and send a message to the University of Michigan. And it's by any means necessary, whatever they've got to do to basically catch him up in something, because he's done things like this so much in recent history, and he really hasn't gotten caught, and he really hasn't been penalized brutally. So I think they're looking to make an example out of him and make an example out of this situation.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. And here's the part that Michigan's going to get away with. They have 90 days to answer it. So none of this stuff is going to be like they're going to investigate it and get it all done within a week. Michigan's going to be afforded the opportunity to play all their games and then, have the issues later. So in that sense, it's kind of one of those things in which you say, go about your business and see what happens. It's going to be fun to see how Michigan handles the noise moving forward. But yeah, Michigan is willing, and it's clear Michigan was willing to go down the road of testing boundaries, testing limits to win football games. Does anybody really care? No. I don't think anybody outside of Michigan, I don't think people at Michigan care. I think that obviously their rivals will just, obviously call them cheats and will invalidate everything as natural rivals will do. But we'll see what the ramifications are going to be, because does the NCAA take this and say, look, this is just a further indication of a coach that was willing to violate multiple rules? Do they elevate that? What kind of punishment does that lead? And if Harbaugh leaves, it's unfortunate. You put the next guy in jeopardy with whatever punishment could be faced. So we'll see if anything comes of this, what degree, if it just, because the way in which this is kind of being done, in which the NCAA is sprinkling little nuggets of information daily and sources going to reporters, is that it puts Michigan in a tough spot, because they're not answering it other than putting out minor statements, and it just kind of makes the court of public opinion really slam Michigan, which is really tough. But in the end, I do believe that Jim Harbaugh would be willing, as anybody at that level, when there's millions of dollars at stake, when there's reputations, the pride in which you feel when you win. At that level, we just don't know what it's like, what people are willing to do. And you just look around, it just seems like Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, teams like that should be and are in the realm of willing to test boundaries to try and win. And that's what happens. Whereas Michigan State, we're in the realm of trying to figure out how not to steal free content off of YouTube and plaster it on big boards without looking at it. So that's the degree that we're talking about here. Michigan State.
What was your reaction? Because you said you were in the stadium. What was your reaction when Hitler went up on the big board?
Okay, so my first thought was not to take a photo. I looked at that and I said, okay, this is trivia. And my brain just kept saying, I felt like I saw this before, but I couldn't put it together and I just moved on. I was just like, my first thought was, this is dumb. But the next thought was just to keep looking at the field and other stuff. I move on. Like, I don't get emotional about stupid shit to get riled up at. You know what I mean? I don't have a vested interest in doing that. I look at it like, if it's not making me professionally any better, it's not helping my clients, not helping my family, not helping me talk shit to the boys or making me feel fun or trying to advance anything, I don't stick with that kind of shit. You know what I mean? Life is too short. I learned that early on, that if there's a lane of happiness to be in, I'd rather be in that than to go, oh my God, I'm so offended. It's something where you can talk shit and laugh at Michigan, but I do have to acknowledge that a group of people will look at that and go, what the fuck are you doing? And it's simple. I mean, I laugh because at this point in my life, I look at people that don't do their jobs well, and I just laugh because it's so frequent. I go, dude, your job is to kind of look at what's on the screen. And it's pretty easy to go, wait, what the fuck? Hitler's on here. We got to take this out. But, Michigan State, they don't do that. And like I said, I think Governor Whitmer, whereas, she kind of doesn't dip her toes too much into that kind of talk, she hammered Michigan State's leadership and said, look, this is a program devoid of leadership. And that's the case, and it's not new. I think we've kind of seen that now with how they've handled a lot of things in regards to trying to sweep things under the rug that aren't good. Look, we've talked about this ad nauseum. When you have an administration that has 5, 6, 7, 8 people trying to all input, everybody's got their own politics, everybody's got their own agenda, and one of them is not leadership. So that's where we're at. We know it. And unfortunately, when you don't have leadership, you get shit like this. It's a national embarrassment, and people are talking about it. And in one way, it kind of wipes away the embarrassment of the football team. But in the other sense, it just goes to show you how stupid the university acts in regards to not paying attention. Like, literally, it's the easiest shit to do is to look at, hey, this is what goes on the screen. Hey, and, in the end, some person's getting fired, and you keep it moving.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of it is it's just really bad timing. Oh. We are in a place right now with a lot of stuff that's going on in the world and a lot of stuff that is going on locally here because of how diverse our area is with the populations that live here. We are in a time where that's a really hot button issue. It's a really hot button topic. And for it to go on the big screen during the biggest football game in the state, it's a bit of an issue. And more to your point, it's a bit of a red flag to the leadership and to what goes on at Michigan State, right? Like, people are in charge and people have jobs to do, and there's just no accountability. Like, those things shouldn't happen. That shouldn't have even of been something that needed to be addressed, but obviously it is. So it is, like you said, it's an accountability issue. It's people not doing their jobs appropriately, and it's a bit of like I said, it's a bit of a red flag as to what kind of goes on at the university, and it's just it's bad timing. Like, if you want to do some type of Hitler trivia, that's fine. Obviously, pretty important in world history and things that have kind of unfolded since then. I would just recommend maybe not doing it right now. Like, let's wait a little bit. I mean, it's not like there's not a brewing war that's going on over in the Gaza Strip. So, like, let's maybe just pump the brakes a little bit. And let's not act like we don't have a ton of different rallies that are going on between the Jewish people and Palestinians. So, like, let's just be easy with all this stuff, because it's already a little bit of a warm temperature with what's going on right now. So just missteps, man. And it seems like Michigan State has a lot of them, whether it's with the football program, whether it's with the board at Michigan State. It just, there's always seems to be something like you just can't get out of your own way. And at a certain point, you got to kind of get out of your own way. And speaking of a team that really couldn't get out of their own way, let's transition over to the Lions after that.
Ooh.
Lions obviously just could not get out of their own way. Actually, they never even got out of the starting blocks. It looks like they all showed up to the stadium half asleep. But I'm going to tell you this. I believe this beatdown in Baltimore was a good thing for this team. This was a bit of a scheduled loss. You look at the way everything kind of played out. You look at what was going on with this team, and you look at kind of where things were headed. This was a scheduled loss. This was put on the schedule, and you're like, that's an L all day. Now, the one good thing about the National Football League is you can show up and you can get absolutely trucked and steamrolled, and it could be 28-0 before you ever get your first down, and it doesn't matter because it all counts the same. It's one loss. It's just one L. There are no additional points that are attached to it. The only thing that kind of changes is obviously the national perspective. The national perspective has done basically a 180 on this Detroit Lions team. But it was good that they lost this game, and it was good that they got their asses beat the way they got their asses beat. And I think it's good because trade deadline's right around the corner. This tells you everything you need to know about this team. It tells you where you're soft at, tells you what you need to address. It tells you what you need to go out and look to fix. And if there's going to be any type of trade out there, if there's going to be anything out there that's available to you to make this team better, you are going to look at this game and you're going to look at where you got manhandled and you're going to say, we need to address this. We need to fix this now. And I'll tell you right now, when I look at this team, I've had question marks about this secondary for a while. I think the secondary is a little bit soft. If you really want to get fickle, we could go back to what we seen in the Tampa game. And you watch that game unfold. There were multiple times where the secondary was beat deep. Now, Baker Mayfield was a little bit of a better quarterback. Maybe those turn into touchdowns, and maybe that was a loss on the road as well. But it wasn't. They were able to win that game, okay? So ifs and buts and candy and nuts. If my grandma had balls, she'd be my grandpa. They won that game. We're going to take it. We're going to keep it moving. But if you really break it down, that secondary was beat a couple times. The quarterback he played just wasn't good enough. In this game, Lamar Jackson looked like he had a renaissance. Lamar Jackson looked like this guy has been able to pass his entire career and look like he can basically run at will. This was vintage Lamar Jackson that you got, and he took advantage of you. So secondary wasn't necessarily great. The defensive line wasn't necessarily great. What's one position that you could add to this team to make both the secondary and the defensive line better? I say you add another pass rusher, whether it be an interior defensive lineman who can get to the quarterback or you add another edge rusher who can get to the quarterback. If you look at this team, when Aiden Hutchinson is operating at his best and this team is wreaking havoc defensively, it's when a guy like Isaiah Buggs or Aleem McNeil or John Kaminsky, somebody other than Aiden Hutchinson is applying pressure and helping Aiden Hutchinson out. When this team is really wrecking shop, Isaiah Buggs is playing out of his mind. Aleem McNeil playing out of his mind. John Kaminsky is getting to the quarterback and is causing havoc. That makes your secondary look better because now your quarterbacks have to operate faster. They're under the gun. I think going into this trade deadline, and because of the results that you got this past Sunday, you need to look at somehow bolstering this defensive line, making it better. And look, I think this loss was a good thing because it really felt like everybody was heaping a ton of praise on this team. And you and I talked about this team and playoffs, and there's been a lot of talk about this team possibly being the best team in the NFL, obviously the best team in the NFC. And this, I think, just kind of helps recenter them a little bit, helps put them back in a better headspace where they know that they've got to go and work. My big concern is we've had a couple of these games now. This is the second one where you've gone out and maybe you've read your own press clippings and your head's gotten a little bit big and then you've had to get your asshole stomped in. You can't do that when the playoffs roll around. You really can't. You need to be a mature enough team that understands how to win and how to take success and to basically take it, compartmentalize it, and move on. You can't keep having these games where you get your face and your teeth kicked in to be like, okay, cool, we've got to go back and we've got to grind this out. So my concern is more the mental fragility and the mental maturity of this team going forward. What are your thoughts on this team basically getting lambasted in Baltimore.
Here's the thing. It kind of was something that was on the table. I thought it would be a more competitive game. I thought the Lions would overcome. I thought they'd meet the challenge of wanting to stop a running quarterback, wanting to go on the road to have an opportunity to get to 6 wins. I thought that they would play a lot better, but they got curb stomped. So here's the thing. There's losing and there's getting curb stomped. This is different because it indicates a complete collapse from game plan to execution to motivation to, wanting to play. And yeah, it was maybe a little bit of a red flag when it was announced that Wednesday was a walkthrough, but these guys are beat up. And here's the thing. Here's the part that I think is fair to look at. The loss of Jerry Jacobs put a lot of things out of whack for the defense because you now have to go to Will Harris, and we all know what we think about Will Harris. And the loss of David Montgomery is a big deal. It's going to impact you. So I thought that, many would have, people thought that, okay, the Lions can continue to overcome because they have talent. But in the end, I don't think it was because they read their press clippings. I just think in the NFL, the emotions that Baltimore brought to the table, it was a tidal wave. They said, oh, the Lions are a team that can stop the run? Okay. They put that on the wall and said, okay, let's go see if we can curb stomp them and run the football effectively. Oh, okay. They have this offense that is top 10. Let's see if we can stop them. Let's get after the quarterback and we can shut it down. John Harbaugh, what I think is concerning, outcoached Dan Campbell. Now, it's to be expected, but to that degree, are the Ravens that much better than the Lions? No, they're a touchdown better. Games in the NFL should be within a touchdown if things are going well, but it didn't. What concerns me is in the playoffs, when you look at what this team probably needs to do, if they want to have success, they need to play at Ford Field. I don't want to see Goff playing in the wind at San Francisco. I don't want to see him playing in the elements because you saw a lot of wobbly passes. You saw the football hit Jameson Williams in the face. You saw a lot of chaos, and the game was over. I mean, literally, it was like the Ravens got throttled with energy, and the Lions just were like, it was 28-0 within a half hour. So for me, it makes it easy to cover the game because, okay, it's over. But for the Lions, it's going to be great. And I think the reaction that people had was good because it tells you that, hey, people care about this football team. They don't want to see their team get curb stomped. And second, yeah, this team's not good enough on its own as constructed right now to win the Super Bowl. Are they close? I respect totally what Michael Irvin said, and he put it right out there. He said, this team reminds me of the 91 Dallas team, where that team, and I said, and I've said this before, I've said it, this reminds me of that team that when they've played, I said it in a podcast, I think I did it for All Lions. I just spit it out there and I said, this team has a feel that I wouldn't get mad if they got to the first round and got their ass beat, because that's what happened to the 91 Cowboys. The Lions whooped their ass and the Cowboys retooled and went on to win multiple Super Bowls. So for this Lions team, though, for this year, you look at that loss and you say, oh boy, you want to play all your playoff games at home as much as possible because that gives you the best chance to win. But I'm not terribly upset. I don't think this is going to linger. It does go to show you, too, that, yeah, this football team needs to add one defensive end, one cornerback, and one wide receiver. You get 3 players that are normal and reasonable and stay healthy, this team can make noise and punch back. You saw it. The Vikings beat the 49ers. We actually moved up. The Lions are the number 2 seed as we record this. The Lions are the number 2 seed in the NFC. So the ramifications are not as bad as people think. It just hurts the ego to get your ass beat in front of everybody in a game that they flexed. And it goes to show you, too. Thankfully, the Lions don't play in the AFC, because if they played in the AFC, they might end up being a team kind of that is kind of 500 a lot of times because, oh boy, that Central and the AFC, holy shit, man. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cincinnati, good God. That is a who's who. But I will say this. Were you upset that they kind of respected Lamar Jackson too much because in the end, I just felt like they went into the game plan saying we are not going to let Lamar run this football, but they gave so much of an open window that literally you and I could have completed those 8-yard passes because of how much cushion they were getting. And I just think that when the defensive line doesn't bring the pressure, it just hangs the cornerbacks out to dry and it looks really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big issue with this game and the game plan. You couldn't get the pressure on the quarterback. And when you started bringing blitzes, it left holes, and your secondary was left wide open and exposed, and they took advantage of that. They took advantage of that multiple times. I still have visions and nightmares of Mark Andrews running free for 25 yards down the field, or their fullback catching a pass and stretching it 23 yards. So, like, I think the defensive line not getting home was a big issue. I think the game plan that Aaron Glenn put together was just piss poor. And I think there are times where I think Aaron Glenn is decent at reading his team, but I think sometimes when it comes to game plan and game plan management and then making the adjustments off of your game plan, he just doesn't do a very good job of it. He just doesn't. And I think it was his game plan that really let this team down, really put this team behind the 8 ball. Look, Ben Johnson, whatever his game plan was, wasn't very good. The offensive line, again, this is where this team is built. This team is built up front. So I think this kind of tells you everything you need to know about where this team's at currently. The guys up front just got manhandled. They got mollywopped. And I think that's a bit of an issue for this team. I think you do have to kind of look at that. You do kind of have to possibly retool or rework something when you're going to be going up against opponents like this. So a little bit of a concern there. I think kind of going back to what you said, it's not so much that you got beat. It was how you got beat, right? It was the style in which you got beat because you weren't even competitive. I think you and I both expected it to be a much closer game. And I think we both expected this to really be a fun game to watch. This game was brutal to watch. This game sucked to watch. It was very, very hard. Like you said, you were basically done with your stories by halftime. By the time this game was going into halftime, I said, you know what? I'm going to go pick up the dog shit because I'm pissed. And I walked outside and I went and I picked up dog shit because I needed to just get away from the TV because I couldn't handle watching it. So it is unfortunate the way that this team ended up losing. I think that there are things that you need to be concerned with when you leave this game, right? And one of them, defensive pressure, not getting home. The blitz package, leaving the safeties or leaving the secondary vulnerable and the secondary getting picked apart. I think offensively, the guys up front not playing like the best offensive line in football, like they've been tagged and like they've been knighted. I think another big issue is when are we going to see something from Jameson Williams? When is JMO going to show up? And I myself am starting to get frustrated with him. I understand, and I'm trying to be patient. I understand that his first year was kind of derailed because he had his ACL injury he had to come back from. And he missed a ton of time early in the season. And then he got in, and it was little reps because he didn't have the familiarity with Jared Goff. You fast forward to the offseason, he gets suspended for gambling. That's a you problem. That's not a me problem. That's a you problem. You screwed up, not me. So now he's missing games. He's missed part of practices, missed part of OTAs, missed part of the preseason, okay? So all that goes on. Now you're in games. You're involved. In this game, I think he was targeted 6 times. He got hit in the face with a football. You came away with no grabs. Nothing. You had nothing. You've done nothing. You basically, you on this team, you are a nothing burger. You've contributed absolutely nothing to this team. And to me, that's incredibly frustrating. This is a guy who you went out and you spent a first-round draft pick on. You can't tell me that this team would not look better if he was Christian Watson or if they utilized that pick to be, Jordan Davis. Like you can't tell me this team wouldn't be in a better position. This guy has given you absolutely nothing. He has been a massive swing and miss. And I'm going to say it. He is a bust. Jameson Williams is a bust. So whether it is a mental issue, whether it's a physical issue, whether it's just issues galore, I'm not sure. But he needs to start performing. He needs to grow up. He is playing in a man's league, and you need to start being accountable. And he has given you absolutely nothing. What's your thoughts on Jameson Williams and his performance so far? Because through, I don't know, the limited amount of action that he has seen, he hasn't given you anything. The guy has got 21 targets, 5 receptions, and he isn't giving you anything.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because it just looks like the way you describe it is a subpar rookie year, 10 games into his career, 11 games, and he has less than 100 career yards receiving. It's crazy. It's unfortunate when you look at it, is that he could have actually helped. And part of it's him. Part of it is obviously attention to detail, executing at the highest level, but also my comments, and you saw them on Twitter at Detroit Podcast, the coaching staff takes a slice of this pie too. If Jameson Williams is a guy that you have to question his hands, then you got to find other ways to get him involved. Yep. He's got speed, but that doesn't mean that the only thing you do with him is send him 40 yards deep and pray that he catches it. I think you can use him in a different way. One end around, start the game, hand the ball off to him. I mean, did you not want to steal some success from the 49ers? I mean, Deebo Samuel lined up in the backfield and took handoffs. I mean, I don't think it's a big thing to line up J-Mo in the slot. He runs behind Goff and grabs a pitch and runs for 20 yards. I think that the Lions are just using him as a decoy, and they're not doing enough to get him into rhythm. I mean,
the old Calvin Johnson treatment.
Yeah, people said it to me. They said just run some bogus plays to him where you throw him the football 2 yards out and whatever happens, get him involved in the game, get him into some rhythm. I mean, I don't think a player of that caliber needs a whole heck of a lot to get into rhythm, but when he's playing 33 snaps... What do you think
of the comments that Dan Campbell has made? Dan Campbell in the past has basically said, look, the expectation, there are none for him. We just need him to show up, and we need him to be in the right place at the right time, and we need him to basically stack good days. Like, that tells me you have a player who is incredibly immature and has shown that at camp, during practices, during OTAs, when he shows up for treatment, and when he shows up in the weight room. This is a guy who is using this as more of a social hour than looking to get better. That's what that tells me.
Well, it's crazy that hands weren't an issue. The man could catch the ball. But also, too, Goff is, what do we tell you? Goff does not throw the most beautiful ball at times past 30 yards. It wobbles. It's hard to adjust to. And for a player like Jameson Williams, he's used to kind of striding with the football, kind of having to put his arms out, not having to twist and turn and have to wait for the football to get there. So it's an adjustment. It's time on task. I think it eventually will get there. But if you're just counting on deep balls, it doesn't work like that. Good teams will just too high safety. It's not that hard to stop it. You just get safety help and Goff won't throw it. It's kind of simple. I mean, it's few and far. It's basically like really, really calculated to say we got to wait for J-Mo to get open before we throw him deep. That's going to be once a game. And then the odds of him completing that are lower in and of itself. So it's basically you got to adapt to what defenses are doing, and you got to adapt to the fact that Jameson is having issues with his hands. You got to throw him a little bit more of routes that are a little bit easier. Scheme him open in a little bit easier kind of way. So I just think that this is something that will get better. Jameson's talented. You see it. You see the speed that the level of attention that he will command. I just think that it's early. It's disappointing because he could have helped you score some points. He could have helped the offense. He could have helped.
You know what the frustrating part is? So, did you watch Monday Night Football on Monday?
I did. I was pissed because your fiance beat me, and I had a feeling. I'm like, okay, she needs 12 points. He's easily going to get it. And of course, Kirk Cousins balls out on Monday Night Football when there was a little bit of a chance he could have had a bad game. But no, of course, 33 fantasy points, 2 touchdowns, over 300 yards, has a connection with Jordan Addison.
This is my point.
I know you're going to say
this
that.
Is my point. Jordan Addison is a guy who is a rookie in this league, right? He is supposed to essentially learn from Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's out. This guy's getting double coverage. This guy is still making plays. This guy transformed that game. This guy took this game over. Going into halftime, there was a for sure primetime Kirk Cousins interception. What did he do? He ripped the ball out of the defender's hands and took it 60 yards to the house. Like, this is a rookie doing this. It just shows you the mental maturity of him compared to a guy like J-Mo. I think it's all between the ears with J-Mo. I think J-Mo has talent. I think J-Mo can do these things. I think his hands are fine. You know how hard it is to run at full speed, look up, catch a pass, and keep it moving? That is difficult. Jameson has good hands, but it's all mental with him. He is a mental midget, and that's the problem, and that's why he's a bust.
Do you see your concern level rising that this is not going to turn around?
Yeah, this is my problem. We are now 2 years into whatever he is going to be, and I'm not seeing anything that makes me say, wow, that guy's going to be a stud. Now he's had plays and he's had flashes where you're like, okay, cool, but the consistency isn't there. Like, to me, at this moment in time, he looks like he is. If you go back to, we'll say 2018, go back to 2018, you look at any Jacksonville Jaguar wide receiver, right? You're just kind of like, oh, that's a guy, and he makes some plays, but like, he's not the guy. Like, he was drafted to be the guy, and he's not the guy. Like, he was supposed to be the Batman or the Robin to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and right now, he doesn't even look like Wonder Woman, bro. Like, he to me, he is a nothing burger. When we go into the week for football, I don't plan on him giving me anything. And you shouldn't have those expectations from a first round draft pick. You shouldn't have those expectations from a guy who has elite speed and who has the ability to transform a game. But I expect nothing from him. And I think that's where the frustration comes from, because I can watch a guy like Jordan Addison and he goes out there and he transforms a game. He takes over a football game. And this is a guy who is a rookie. This is a guy who is very young in his career. He is essentially 6 games into his career, and he looks like he's that dog. This guy, I don't know what he is, but he's not very good. And that's the problem. I think he has bust written all over him. And look, he can change it. He can turn it around. He really can. I don't expect it, though. I think he is going to be a guy who, when you know what? You know what he reminds me of? Just kind of working through this real quick. He reminds me of a guy like Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray has all the talent in the world. Throw a beautiful football. Has the ability to do miraculous things on a football field, but he's lazy. He doesn't want to spend the time mentally to do what he has to do. I feel like Jameson Williams is the same thing. I feel like he's lazy. I don't feel like he does the things that he's supposed to do. He doesn't put the time, doesn't put the energy, put the effort in. I don't give a shit that you caught 100 balls on the jugs machine. I don't care about that.
Catch 10,000.
I don't. You need to approach this as though you are a professional. You are not in college. This is the difference between the pros and college. In college, you can go out and you can beat guys just based on pure ability. You can go out there and you can play sandlot backyard football and you can beat guys that way. You can't do that in the pros because everybody is that guy who is beating somebody in backyard sandlot football. Every guy out there is that. You need to follow the game plan. You need to put the time in. You need to put the effort in. And I just don't see him doing that, and that's the issue. He is going to be probably one of the greatest what-ifs, because what if this guy put in the time? What if this guy put in the effort? What if I could just do what was asked of him? What if? I'll tell you what if. He could be special, but he doesn't do it.
What if the offense is great with Goff, but he's got a connection with Hooker? What if he's got a connection with just a different style of quarterback and you end up paying Goff? It's crazy because I do think J-Mo can have success. It's just one of those things that a lot more he just got to do a lot more. The coach has got to get him more involved. He's got to perform better. He's got to not have the ball bounce off his face and the announcer's just laughing at him and looking at it. You made a great point. And you can follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. That he's got to do more. You can't have a rookie coming in like Jordan Addison. He's got 6 touchdowns, 400 yards. He's a rookie. So let's not act like this is rocket science to play wide receiver in the National Football, in the National Football League. Get open, catch the football. It's hard. A lot of it has to do with Jameson. He's going to have to want it. And he's got to be mature enough to take his lumps, figure it out with Goff, and handle his business, because it's something that just could really help this team this year if he turns it around. Hell, he could help on Monday Night Football against the Raiders if he could have an explosive touchdown. Are you concerned at all? Do you feel like Raiders at all pose any threat to the Lions? I don't think so. I think it's a 7-point win easily. I think they play well. Jimmy Garoppolo is a sitting duck. He's not going to evade anything. He might not last 2 quarters. So I feel like it's going to be a fun game against the Raiders, and I think that had the Lions not gotten their ass kicked, it might have been a different thing, different storyline. But they got their ass beat, and they're going to have that extra day to stew on it. They're going to kick the Raiders' ass in front of the whole country.
Yeah, I think this should be a good game for Lions and for Lions fans. Look, I'm not sure what's going on with the Raiders. It seems like this team is completely dysfunctional. Like, Josh Jacobs isn't the same running back he was a year ago. Devontae Adams seems so upset and just so worked up and frustrated. Jimmy Garoppolo is in, he's out, he's in, he's out. Like, he's banged up, beat up. Josh McDaniels is sitting on one of the hottest seats in all of the National Football League. To me, they should go and they should roll this team. I think the Lions fans are going to show up. They're going to pack Ford Field. They're going to be ravenous. I think this should be one of those games on national television that kind of restores that roar with everybody talking about the Detroit Lions. I think they handle the Las Vegas Raiders. I think this sets them up for a pretty good bye week, and I think they end up coming back ready to take on the Chargers. So I expect a win here.
Win, baby. Absolutely. I hope so, too. Man, it's going to be a long Monday. Here's the dilemma, too. That Tuesday is the trade deadline. Yeah. I hope they make a move, but it's Halloween, so if they make the move at 4 o'clock, I'm fucked because I got to find a way to work and might have to walk and trick-or-treat and type at the same time. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see. We'll break it all down for sure next week. What are your thoughts? Do they make the move or not? Do they make a big, significant move or not?
Yeah, I think they have to.
Yes.
We just talked about it. We spent half the podcast talking about it. I think they have to make a move.
Yep.
I think it has to be on the defensive side of the ball, though. Look, I agree with you. The offense needs to get taken care of, but I think it has to be on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think they will, too. But I don't think it's going to be Daniil Hunter. I don't think it's going to be a big move. I think it's going to be a secondary move, day 3 pick kind of thing. I don't think somebody can just come in and the Vikings win made it tougher for them to trade somebody. I think maybe the high end is Patrick Surtain as a home run, but I think you go maybe the one that you end up with that I've been seeing all over the internet is Dante Jackson. I think from the Panthers. I think that's not a bad play.
What about what is it? I think it's Brown, the defensive tackle from Carolina.
Yeah.
What about
Burns,
him as an addition?
Burns too, the big one, Brian Burns?
Yeah, I don't think they're trading Brian Burns. I think they want to keep Burns. I would love Burns, but I don't think they're trading Burns.
Yeah. No, I could see something going on with a defensive back too to sure things up. But we'll see. But the one that's more important is you got to get Aiden some help. Aiden needs that one teammate. You know, he needs his Alex DeBrincat to Dylan Larkin to bring the extra shine. You know what I mean? But we'll see. We'll see if they make the move. And stay tuned to Detroit Sports Podcast as we bring the news and break it all down as it happens at Detroit Podcast. I know you're as excited as I've been. I've watched every game this year for the Red Wings, start to finish. Not all live, catching some replays, but my goodness, has the power play been on fire? Has the offense been looking like a machine, like the Oilers used to look? This offense has been amazing, and that sells tickets. It's its excitement. DeBrincat, league leader in scoring, he kind of like put a shot in the arm and gave the mojo more to Dylan Larkin. You can see that number 1 line with Lucas Raymond. My God, is that line playing at such a high level. I was so impressed with the Calgary game where the power play was not clicking. They still scored a shit ton of goals, and it was fun. It's been fun to watch this Red Wing team play with confidence and kind of flourish. Is this just the DeBrincat factor or more experience, or what the hell's been causing the Red Wings to start the year being among the points leaders to start the NHL season?
I think a lot of it has to do with DeBrincat. I think you add in a guy who is a legit number 1, a guy who can score almost at will. And the system that they've got going right now, it makes them a lot of fun to watch, right? Like this team is scoring, I think, like an average of 5 goals a game right now or something close to it. Every game that they've essentially played, they've scored more than 3 goals or more. So they're a ton of fun to watch right now. And I think it is the DeBrincat factor. I think putting him on a line with a guy like Dylan Larkin, this is something you and I have talked about for a while. Dylan Larkin is not the guy who makes everybody else better. He's the guy who plays better when he's got somebody else who does that. DeBrincat's that guy. He's the guy who makes everybody else on that line better. So you get Larkin going now. So again, he's a good player. Larkin is a good player. We've never said that he wasn't. He's a good player. He just needs somebody else. He has to be the Robin. He is not Batman. Right. So now you're getting him going. You're getting him putting points on the board. And again, it allows you to move other guys down. So you've got other lines that are now a little bit more powerful. You have guys that were playing on your first line last year that are now playing on your second line. So now your second line's stronger. That means your third line's stronger. That means your fourth line is a little bit better. So what you're seeing is a giant move and a giant shift in talent because of essentially one guy. And look, they brought in a couple of guys who are adding and helping out. But I really think it is DeBrincat who has made a giant impact on this team and really helped transform it into this team that is just kind of ripping goals at will and a power play that is operating at such a high level. This is the thing, though. They are operating at a clip right now that is kind of unprecedented. They are doing things and they are winning games in a fashion that I don't think is sustainable. So if you're a Red Wings fan, enjoy it because this is good. This is fun. This shows you how good they are and how good they can be. The thing is, at some point, some of this is going to dry up a little bit. It all kind of comes back down to leveling itself out. So don't be surprised if there's a bit of a stretch where this team is struggling to find the back of the net, where the power play just isn't clicking like it was. Don't be surprised if there's a bit of a stretch where things just aren't going as well as they were. Because, again, water always finds its level. I think this team right now, though, is so much fun to watch, and it really is because of what's going on with DeBrincat and his addition to this lineup. It's been awesome.
Yes, it's been great, man, to get those points. Man, it's fun to see, and this looks like a team that now we can hopefully down the road as we check in weekly with them adds a little bit. Maybe Steve Yzerman will be like, oh, maybe we can add some pieces at some point to make this a winning playoff team. But look, trust in Yzerman. Good things are going to happen. So far, so good. But also, just to bring some perspective, the Wings did start last year also kind of hot, and then they tailed off. And when the time came for them to pass the exam for Yzerman, they bombed it. They didn't study hard enough, and they didn't perform. And Yzerman's like, oh, hell no, I'm selling the shit out of this team. So we'll see how this plays out, and hopefully they can continue to play and prove people wrong, prove that they're a team that can compete in the NHL. Another situation, another team that has to prove that they can compete is the Pistons, because I have less than no expectations for the Pistons. I just want to see some defensive numbers look better. I want to see the Oscar Thompson play better. I want to see Cade Cunningham's return, and I want to see what the impact of the new coach is going to be. Because, look, it's crazy, because if the Pistons double their win total, they're still a 10 seed. Doubling their win total is 34 wins, which is still horrible at 32 or 34 and 48 or 34 and whatever it is, 34 and 48. That, my God, that's just is crazy to think about that they have to more than double their win total even to be considered to even start to look at the postseason. So it's going to take time. I think that this is a non-playoff year, but a year of growth. And you got to see what these pieces look like together. I want to see if they actually do put Ivy in the six-man role and how he accepts that. And I just want to see good shots. I want to see shot selection that's reasonable and normal and allows this team to compete at a high level.
You know, I want to see what we got in Cade Cunningham. It's now going into year 3 of Cade, and I still have no idea what he is as a player. I don't know what his full potential is because banged up and he's been hurt. I would love to see a healthy year of him so I can have an idea of what this team is supposed to look like, at least on paper, because I've got no clue what we have with the Pistons. I've got no idea because I don't know what Cade's bringing. I don't know what Cade and Ivy look like. Hopefully Oscar Thompson performs and Jalen Duren takes that next step. And hopefully all of it is under this coach who's coming in and can establish and help this team play defense, like you said. But really, for me, it comes down to Cade. I need to know what Cade is because at this moment in time, I just don't know. And this, it's sad. If you were to wind the tape and you were to go back to last year at this time, I think I said the same thing. I need to see what Cade is. I need to see Cade take that next step. That's what I need. I need to know what we have with this player that we sunk the first overall draft pick in a couple of years ago, because right now I've got question marks.
Yeah. And let's say 30 to 36 wins, probably, again, safe to say, probably in that window.
Yeah, I would say that's
30 wins,
safe.
yeah. I think 32 and 50 32 and 50 is my starting point, and if they go a little bit over that, then it's okay. I think 32 and 50 is fair. You compete, you play defense, and you try and bring back the fan base and get them starting to look at what this regime is. I think they got the right coach, but let's see if some of the pieces that have been connected will start to play well together. Maybe they'll have a little bit of a run and get people invested, but if you don't, okay, it's fine. People will still kind of look at everything that's going on, and we'll see kind of how Troy Weaver and the relationship that he has with Monty Williams, how that plays out. But we'll see. It's Pistons. It's not something we talk about significantly on the podcast, but let's hope they turn it around to get themselves a spot on our airwaves. Because that was a fun hour. I do feel a little bit better breaking down all the shit that happened. The blessing is you and I putting our brains together makes a much better team than Michigan State, and that makes me feel so much better. It's always good to have those that can function as functioning adults making decisions. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Anything at all that you want to talk about, hit us up. People have already replied here. We'll give 2 quick replies. Biff comes in. He says he's just simply better. And, well, maybe. And Eleonora, this account, man, great follower, has been messaging us nearly for a decade. Says, because Cousins actually throws the ball to Addison. Look, man, they do target Jameson. The fucker just, unfortunately,
doesn't catch the
hands
ball.
just, like, it's a weird thing that his hands and his body aren't connected like a fine-tuned machine. It's fucking annoying. But I think it'll come when it does. But I just think that there might be a growing thing where you could look at it and say, is it going to happen with Goff as the signal caller? And does Brad, if you want to cause drama, is it Team JMO or is it Team Goff? Because if Goff gets that contract, I think Brad might just be like, all right, see you later, JMO. And listen, NFL, not for long. We'll see how this plays out because I do think that Brad is more loyal to Jared than he is to JMO. We'll see how that plays out for the young wide receiver. Guys, everybody, thank you. Thank you for letting us broadcast, talking to you. Thank you for listening. We greatly appreciate it. Man, oh man, that was fun. Thanks, everybody, every Thursday and Friday morning for listening. We know you guys love it in the morning and late in the evening on Thursdays. We'll try to get it out ever so much, get it out as fast as humanly possible, especially this week with everything going on in the world of Detroit sports. So much to get to. Adam brings it. Great content, great question that people are going to be pondering in regards to another player having success and Jameson not. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I'm the Doc, John Macaroon. Let's get after it. Can't wait to break down what the hell the Lions do next week on Doc and Jock.